So the more settled financial conditions led in 1845 to the first railway mania. And this was basically where, believing that there was ample capital available for investment, lots of schemes were floated to connect relatively minor places to each other, and with a greater emphasis on serving intermediate towns that lay between the cities rather than just the cities at either end of the railway line. And at this point, a political controversy developed, not between parties, but within a party, between Sir Robert Peel, who led the Tory party, who was a businessman based in Bury near Manchester. And he argued that businessmen were the right people to decide whether a railway should be built, because they understood finance, and railways were ultimately built for the benefit of the business community in promoting the movement of managers and clerks for business purposes and promoting the movement of freight. On the other side was the president of the Board of Trade, William Gladstone, who took a very different view. Gladstone thought that by 1845 it was time to think in terms of a national network, national system of connectivity, a kind of system of iron roads that replicated the ordinary road system. So what Gladstone wanted to do was to organise railway schemes so that Parliament only chose schemes that would fit in to a coherent network. But this was very unpopular with local members of Parliament, because local members of Parliament were mandated by their local electorates to get us a Railway Act, and being told by a bunch of civil servants in the Board of Trade that they couldn't have a railway because it didn't fit in with some integrated national plan was not good for politics.
Yes.
And so what effectively happened is that the members of Parliament all basically took Peel's line and rejected Gladstone's line. And what they did basically was they authorised each other's schemes. MPs weren't allowed to vote basically on their own railway scheme, but they could make deals with other MPs. So I'll back yours if you back mine. And in that way, a vast number of schemes were built, which far exceeded the capacity of the capital market to finance them. And so as a result of many failed schemes, that failed financially before they'd even got built, the railways got off to, in a way, a bad start, because instead of being associated with successful promotions, they were associated with the loss of personal fortunes by many railway investors who'd invested in these schemes that never got built. And it wasn't really then until the 1860s, the period of the so-called second railway mania, 1860 to 66, that the network as we sort of would recognise it at the turn of the century, around about 1900, it was at that stage that the network got completed. And at that stage in the 1860s, a lot of cross-country lines were built to actually fulfil the Gladstonian agenda of providing a national network. But until 1860 or so, it had been mainly about big cities, big ports, and business interests.